This is a meeting of beautiful. So this is a meeting of the Roosevelt Island Audit Committee. Howard Palby here, Chair. Joining by remote, David Kraut. Joining by remote, Morris Peters, our representative from the Division of Budget. And here we have Dravika Aman, our CFO. And we have Mary Kunin, our acting COO. And we are looking.
Marcus Louis.
And Marcus Louis. I'm sorry. I'm famous for being so great with names.
No problem.
No,
Our Deputy Comptroller.
Our Deputy Controller. You know, this is the Yiddish term for it called Dre Cup, I believe, Dave. Is that right? Okay, which means spitting head. So we're looking at our finalized version of the proposed budget. The intent is that this document will be presented to the board at next Thursday's meeting. So in a week's time, the finalized budget for the year 2025 to 2026 will be presented. We were presented draft version in October. We will be looking for changes here. I haven't developed all my questions yet, and we may have questions over the next week, if possible. If we can get them to Dravika by Monday, that'll give her enough time to have organized answers, which are always very good. Morris, jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. This is a budget. This is not a prescription. So this is our estimate of our expenses, our estimate of resources to be available against expenses, and our feeling where we might stand were all these things to happen just this way. And they never have, and they probably never will. So I'm pleased to say that the budget as drafted, and it's just the budget, will show that we are in reasonable position.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Yeah, let the recording show that Faye Christian has joined us.
Okay.
And I was just going on about the very importance of the budget. And of course, we thank the staff for drafting this up. We'll have questions and suggestions, as I said, in the next few days. Most of what I'll focus on today will be about the narrative. The reason for that is I personally, and I assume many other people, focus on the narrative. The numbers and charts are all very interesting, and there are only so many numbers possible, and the eyes start to water after a while. I'm an actuary, so I know all about that kind of thing. So let's go over the budget highlights.
Sure.
Dravika told me before the meeting started that the projection has been updated, so there's not major change. It's just projected for the past 3 months of actual.
Okay. You want to go to the summary page? Perfect. Can you see the proposed budget, David and Morris?
Yep.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dravika Aman. I'm the CFO and VP of RIA. The budget was based on a forecasting plan using future reasonable assumptions, trends in operations to determine estimates. I want to thank Marcus Louis, our Deputy Comptroller, and the finance team. For the fiscal year 25-26 budget, I will be focusing mainly on the overview of the proposed budget. If you'd like to follow along with me on the projector screen, and this also appears in your meeting materials on page 5, I'll mostly be speaking about the items shown on the 25-26 budget summary. REAC is anticipating to see an increase in revenue of $146,471, or 0.4%, and total expenses before depreciation to increase by $3.0 million, or 8.2%. Therefore, the net income before depreciation is anticipated to increase by $183,000. If you could turn to the next page, Marcus. Now we're turning over to pages 9 through 12 of the proposed budget materials for the detailed breakdown of revenue. Overall, REAC is anticipating to see an increase in revenue of $146,000 or 0.4%, which you'll see on your screen here. The main drivers of the increases are residential revenue which includes condo sale fees, is anticipated to increase $852,000 or 15.9%. This is due to contractual escalation and TEP payments from Southtown Building Number 9. REAC has received the $24.8 million that was due on rent commencement date, where the temporary certificate of occupancy has been issued for 90% of the completed units of the building. Ground rent revenue is anticipated to decrease by $1.4 million or 18.5%. This is offset by interest revenue of $10.6 million or 17.5%. Now, this is due to the GASB 87 reporting guidelines that requires for us to split between principal and interest. And we have to come up to a value, which is the present value of future payments to be received on the balance sheet. And interest rate is also implicit in this calculation.
So the interest rate used was what, 5.4?
No, it's 3%.
3%? Oh,
Yes.
sorry, 3% was
Yes.
used. Okay.
Yes. Commercial rent revenue is anticipated to increase $132,000 or 7.5%. This is due to contractual escalations. We received guaranteed rent from Hudson Related of $86,000 on a monthly basis. On the 15th anniversary in 2026, appraisals will need to be completed. So we can base the new guaranteed rent on the current fair market value. Other revenue are projected to increase by $43,000 or 1.87%. This is due to sports park additional programming for group fitness classes, advertising, where we're implementing a strategic plan for digital signage on the island, and FEMA grants, where we're supposed to be receiving around $588,000 for the COVID-19 PPE and Safe Opening Project. This is offset by the tramway revenue, which is anticipated to decrease by $419,000 or 5.9%. This is due to the F train being back in service and causing a reduction in ridership. If you want to turn to the next slide, Marcus. Moving along to personnel expenses. This is the detailed breakdown could be located on pages 14 to 16 of the proposed budget materials. Overall, personnel expenses anticipated to increase by $1.4 million or 8.1%. This report also captures vacant positions as well as temporary employees. This consists of an increase in the number of personnel for the needs of the organization. Additional positions were added to reduce the current professional fees costs and increase savings. This is in departments relating to transportation, where they were understaffed and they were in a critical state to have more positions filled. And then we also have Sports Park, where we're terminating the Stand Guard contract, which provides aquatics and lifeguard services. And we did a cost-benefit analysis where it's better to hire internally. Also, regarding our Department for Capital Projects and Planning, we want to phase out Lero, which is our owner's rep, and also hire our own personnel to manage projects, as well as a grants department to explore grants and offset the cash outlay for projects and expenses.
Drew?
This report also shows, yes. I'm here.
These numbers assume that all of the positions are filled for the whole year, right?
Correct, exactly.
So I mean, it seems like it would be likely there's going to be some attrition. There always is, right? Some positions would be unfilled for some amount of time. So this would be the sort of the upper limit of what we're likely to spend on personnel, I'm surmising.
Correct. We're using a conservative approach.
Yeah, so staff positions shown filled, even though we know right now that there are some long-standing vacancies or some recent vacancies.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we hope, of course, that we'll be able to fill those vacancies, and we want to make sure that we're hiring people and all of that. But that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the personal expenses also includes increases in salaries for the cost of living adjustment of 2% and the standard performance-based increase of 3%. Okay. Now we proceed to other than personnel expenses. The detailed breakdown could be located on pages 16 to 20 of the proposed budget materials.
And the summary is still on page 5.
Correct, exactly. These are some of the factors contributing to our rising variance. First, it's management fees relating to tramway and motorgate, which increased by $602,000 or 9.5%. Insurance increased by $566,000 or 11.5%. This is due to ongoing negotiations with the insurance carrier and forecasting double digits rate increase. Assumptions were also made based on actual data from premiums and the increase in carriers' reinsurance costs in the market and limited capacity issues. We have to remember we have a very unique property schedule.
Does the insurance schedule break down some of the cost elements?
Yes.
Okay, so we could, in narrative, for example, talking about the tram as an entity, include and load in all various revenues and expenses associated with it.
Correct.
Like reimbursement. I'm just talking that the narrative is really the centerpiece of the budget. I mean, the supporting schedules are the facts, but the way we talk about the facts make it comprehensible, especially when we're talking with people who don't have enough time or inclination to dig through everything.
Correct. Exactly. So if we're looking at insurance holistically, to answer your question, if we're projecting about $5.5 million per year,
I know
but then if we just look at the tram general liability and other insurance premiums, it's almost half of that, believe it or not.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And POMA, who is our tram manager, their contribution is maximized at $290,000 towards insurance. So we do have to negotiate that.
That's really easily negotiated given the current market in there, and I'm sure they're familiar with everything going on.
Yes.
With insurance.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Legal fees increased by $505,000 or 87%. This is due to litigation, lawsuits, and investigation. Telecommunication increased by $77,000 or 48.7%. This is for internet service and provider data lines. Repair and maintenance increased by $110,000 or 19.1%. This is for elevator work, potholes, island fixtures, tree and law service, and electrical work. Fleet maintenance increased by $72,000 or 27.7%. This is for repairs for fleets, buses, for grounds, and PSC. Office equipment increased by $25,000 or 130.4%. This is due to increase in equipment for CPP, trailers, porta potties, and etc. Dues and subscription increased by $32,000 or 85.8%. This is due to CPP certifications and subscriptions for legal law journals and legislative systems. Other expenses increased by $31,000 or 58.1%. which consists of bank charges for merchant fees. It's related to sports parks. And then we also have the public enforcement fund projection here, which is 0.1% of the contract value of any projects we take up. And also there's parts and supplies and DOL items in there as well.
We've caught up on that 0.1%.
We have,
Okay.
that's right. The public purpose fund also increased by $100,000 or 66.7%. The resolution to increase was passed at the September's board meeting.
Okay, and that particular line item includes more than just the public purpose fund.
That's correct, exactly. Includes like other island events and et cetera.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm sorry. The public purpose grants is a separate line item from island events.
Okay.
Yes.
What page is it?
If you look at page 5,
Oh, yeah, oh, right,
yeah,
right.
the public purpose grants is its own
Oh,
item. No worries.
Yeah.
Okay. And these expenses are offset by professional fees that decreased by $372,000 or 15.4%. Professional fees include cleaning, Standguard, NVAC, PSD training, DIVA, and New York City Transit fees. Computer software equipment decreased by $45,000 or 56.3%. Utilities, power and water decreased by $225,000 or 25.3%. We anticipate a steadier usage because we're basing this off of actual data. Go on to the next slide. So finally, let's look at the capital plan budget for fiscal year 25 to 26. The detailed breakdowns will be located on pages 7, 8 of the proposed budget materials. And also this is page 6 of the PowerPoint presentation. Overall, we're budgeting $7.983 million in capital planning. This is a reduction of $19.4 million that was budgeted from prior year's capital budget, which was projected at $27.4 million for fiscal year 25 to 26. And we were able to defer the negative cash flow position by 2 years. As a result, the capital plan for fiscal year 25-26 is much narrower in scope than in recent fiscal years. The main projects are $1.8 million for roadway rehabilitation, where we have phase 1 and phase 2 of the projects from Main Street to Motorgate, and then from South Point to Blackwell. And this is to remove Z-bricks and replace with concrete and add lighting and do wayfinding signage. Then we have $2.1 million for vehicle bus upgrade. We're looking to purchase 2 more new flyer buses along with the infrastructure. And then also $1.5 million for tramway modernization. This is for carriage improvements and brakes. And then next year, we're also projecting another $1 million or so for track rope repositioning for the tramway. Moving forward, I have identified several ideas that can enhance cash flow, keep operations sustainable, and reduce costs. As such, they include grant income, exploring various avenues to increase grant funding that align with our capital operational infrastructure type projects, contract reviews, which are favorable to REAC, that includes negotiating terms with POMA during the next year's renewal to make terms favorable to REAC, defer or cut back on certain capital projects based on cash flow, review cost-benefit analysis for contracts, explore additional revenue streams for bill-back for AVAC and buses when full fleet is organized, advertising and permits, and increasing PSD reimbursements. We continue to look for additional revenue through possible lease true-ups after review of each lease. We have been successful in receiving true-up monies from several buildings. Some success stories that I would like to include is one, first, the financial and accounting software was implemented as we're moving to a digital world to automate platforms. The purchase of bread buses that was completed earlier this year, reducing service contracts and increasing revenue on certain contracts, the motorgate parking increase, and lease true-ups that were mentioned earlier. And we were able to increase the public purpose fund for community nonprofits. These items will be staged properly, and we have to take inflation into consideration when making these final strategic decisions. The current inflation rate is at 2.7% compared to 3.1% last year. Inflation has fell to its lowest level in 3.5 years. This is due to falling oil, rent, and vehicle prices. Overall, the price of goods has fallen nearly by 2% over the last 12 months. However, costs of services continue to climb. Grocery prices are not falling, but leveled off, and housing costs are climbing. Rising wages will gradually catch up to the higher prices. The Federal Reserve began cutting rates in September, but that risk remains in the inflation outlook. There will be a bumpier progress on inflation's path back to the Fed's 2% target. REAC and the finance team will also evaluate any future purchases prior to the tariffs being placed on imported goods. Lastly, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present. I hope to make REAC successful in delivering consistent growth and benefit the public.
Great.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, that'll be a good presentation.
Jude, thank you for that presentation. Again, really appreciate getting the chance to hear from you. Just wanted to confirm what I think is true, but the numbers here are only different from the earlier versions that we've seen in the sense of, you have better actuals, more updated information, but nothing substantively changed. Is that true?
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Based on what we've learned over, the last 2 months.
The intervening couple of, yeah.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Okay. And then
I have a concern.
Yes.
It's not a budgetary question, but it occurred to me while I was listening to the presentation, and I guess it includes kind of the stuff that Murray was talking about in yesterday's meeting. Are we going to be properly staffed to keep our buses running 2 or 3 or 5 years from now, as we rely more and more on rebuilding and repair and maintenance, because we don't want to buy any more new buses for the reasons stated? Because they're switching over to electric by 2030 or something like that?
2035, yes.
Yeah, so we have 10 years to make sure that we are properly staffed to keep our buses running. And did I see in your personnel report that we have a couple of vacancies in the garage, in the repair?
Yes, we have hired a fleet supervisor. I believe we have 1 vacancy for a mechanic, and then we do have 2 vacancies for. No, I think the bus drivers were just filled. Yes.
The director of transportation,
Mm-hmm.
we've moved forward with the candidate. We're just waiting for approval from chamber for them to start.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a long-term concern. I hope I'm not still on the board by that time.
Yeah. No, we actually got approval from chamber for the director of transportation, so we're just waiting to find out his start date.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's good. Very good.
Yes.
It moved along pretty quickly too.
It's it.
Okay. So with the 2 buses coming online February most likely, maybe a little bit earlier. Will be a sufficient capacity, Mary said yesterday, to do a more detailed rehabilitation of the buses that we already have. And that'll be done externally. That reduces the emergency nature of what has to be done here by staff to allow them to do regular maintenance, I would think.
Indeed, Howard. I didn't want to revisit all that stuff from yesterday. I got it. I just want to
Okay.
make sure that
I'm
I just want to make sure that in terms of our staffing and personnel, have refilled all our personnel lines sufficiently to carry out the mission. That's all.
So the personal lines seem like they'll be filled.
Yeah, so we have one vacancy in the mechanic position, and then really part of the feasibility study that we'll look to do for the EV transition will be to determine if there's additional staff needed, additional training, any workforce development that would be included with that integration, so.
And they're talking full electric, 2035, not hybrid electric.
Full electric,
Yeah,
correct.
correct. So we'll have to plan in advance, because as you know how long it takes for these buses to be built and, delivered.
Right.
And we also have to build out the infrastructure as well for the
Right,
charging.
so we're probably going to have the challenge
Mhm.
maintaining 3 varieties of buses
Mhm.
for a period of time as we bridge everything.
Yes.
Also, we have to consider that if the state has mandated full electric fleets by 2035, then we're going to be competing with other agencies to acquire this equipment, and the manufacturers are going to be raising their prices. It's just natural capital business.
Mary, didn't you say that the city has ordered some fully electrical ones already? So we can,
Yeah, so New York City Transit, they have an order currently for, I believe it's 200 or 300 electric vehicles electric buses that should be delivered next year. And really in conversations with them and several other transit authorities, was to see how they do with those buses, see how they're able to put them to use, roll them out, and any challenges they run into to kind of use them as more of the guinea pig than for REAC doing that. Because EV technology also is constantly evolving. The technology this year is drastically different than last year, which is great because it means that the technology hopefully is improving. But it also means that there might be a learning curve, or there might be different parts and things like that. So it's hopefully by the time we have our feasibility study done, there'll be a good handle on the EV production side of things as far as a standard for the buses and the equipment that's associated with it.
so we will definitely use the city as a guide.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Well, I have to. An agency as small as this one obviously can't perform all the testing and the inspection that's going to be required to get these buses approved. And as Mary just said, electric vehicle technology. I remember 20 years ago, people on this board were talking about when are we going to get electric buses. In fact, 40 years ago, when this island was first organized, people were talking about electric buses, and we had a few. And so these ideas keep popping up and then turning out not to be such good ideas. And I think Mary is right when she alludes to the fact that change is coming faster and faster, and the notion of what is an electric bus by the year 2035 might be nothing like what the city is buying 200 of next year. And so someone's got to help us keep up with that stuff. So yeah, let the city do the work.
We're in agreement.
Okay. Well,
I'll still be on the
good.
board.
Well, we have the capital plan dealing with where we have to deal with things.
Mhm.
We have not mentioned and not really dealt with here is dealing with the seawall
Mhm.
in all its glory and the steam plant in all its problems.
Mhm.
So that's, and also dealing with our friends in Kohler with the berm project. There's no way of anticipating exactly where it stands. They were very interested 6 months ago in talking about it, and I'm not aware of many conversations after that.
Yeah, there's really no real update. I think they're still in the design phase for the Kohler berm. Yeah.
Okay.
But also, I think, for REAC's best interest, we have to see where we can financially maximize, you know, on some of these projects, like for the steam plant or steam tunnel. I mean, the steam plant, land is valued at about $88 million. And I think we, you know, talked about possibly, negotiating with HHC, who owns, you know, the steam tunnel and steam plant. And hopefully they can surrender that to us, and then we can have like a recognition agreement with the city, where then we can have a developer develop on that land, and of course it will affect the master lease.
Well, there's that. Well, there's the master lease itself, which is
Mhm.
moving parts right now. And it would be nice to have someone, not us, have to do the cleanup.
Yes, of course.
And it would be nice if they dealt with the stacks
Mhm.
sooner rather than later, please.
Yes,
So,
which is a huge liability.
yeah, so we're not anticipating
Mhm.
that as contingent expense. And it's proper that we're not, because the ownership is so murky right now.
Mhm.
We've done and expended a lot of money to understand the situation.
Mhm.
I hope it's valuable to everyone.
We have, projected the steam tunnel repairs,
Mhm.
the exterior and interior, about $21 million. So we have projected that to begin in like 3 phases in, 27, starting from 27,
Right,
28.
sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
and going forward. Again, we don't own it, but it always, the responsibility always falls
Well,
on those repairs.
it's
Yeah.
prudent to
Mhm.
be generous recognizing expenses, let's
Yeah.
say, and not go overboard recognizing potential income and grants and so forth. For instance, a certain $5 million grant, which was transferred to roadways,
Yes.
it's not recognized here,
Mhm.
and that'll be very nice when it shows up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we talk about the possibility of net interest income from reserves, now that we have about 25 million to consider.
Correct.
You mentioned talking about 3-month T-bills or something.
6-month T-bills, because.
Right, 4.3 or
Yeah,
whatever.
based on like a fixed income operating report that we received from our investment bank, the 6-month T-bills grows the highest, like if you look at the yield to maturity, it grows the highest interest.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
so we were looking to put it into 6-month T-bills.
Right, the only question I would have
Mhm.
is, do we need to hold 5% of it or whatever in more immediate reserves? I don't know what, but I'll say money market,
Mhm.
with a money market equivalent, which would be suitable for investment, might be yielding right now.
Yeah, we have cash available,
Okay.
you know, for unexpected items, and regular,
Okay,
you know,
well,
operational
as long as we approve
expenses.
the amount of cash available.
Yeah, and it's easy to sell a part of the 6-month,
Okay,
T-bill.
that's true.
Yeah.
They're liquid.
Because as a government agency, we are restricted in investing in stocks and,
Oh, of course.
you know, other types of investments. So the
Bit-
only thing
Bitcoin's
invested
certainly out.
is in treasuries or anything backed by the government.
Or like Bitcoin is currently.
Yeah,
So.
We can start,
we've had the
we can start our own Bitcoin. Everybody else seems to be doing it.
Well, we could, and we could use that as currency for paying tram fares. Or we could have a local currency like we do in Ithaca, Ithaca hours. So,
But definitely invest in Bitcoin, Tesla, all the, you know, tech stocks before the inauguration. So,
should be too late by now.
no, I think it's still gonna jump, yeah. Mhm. Yeah. You may have short-term gains, you know.
You may. Well, so one of the things I'll be looking at over the next couple, 3 days is looking at the narrative, just to make it a little bit juicier.
Okay.
I mean, we understand more or less what we're looking at when we see it, but we're not the full audience of this sort of thing. For instance, when we talk about interest income,
Mhm.
the high amount of interest income confused at least one person I'm aware of. Whereas actually there are two components. One is basically a decrease in discount for the present value of all the ground leases,
Correct.
and the other is interest income.
Exactly.
So if a little bit about GASB 87 more explicitly was in there, just so it would lessen the confusion that we're not inventing a number from somewhere.
Okay.
That sort of thing. And a little bit of narrative like extraordinary expense. What is an extraordinary expense?
Okay.
It doesn't have to be very many words, a phrase.
Mm-hmm.
A phrase really illuminates this sort of thing, I think.
Okay, but we're not classifying anything as
We're
an
not-
extraordinary expense on our budget, just to let you know, we
Right.
used to.
Okay.
But, the
Well,
DOT has advised us.
Again, I
Yeah.
apologize, I could
That's okay.
spend more time with this recently, but a couple other things.
Okay.
So, Morris, David, Betty, Lydia, if you look at this, there's still some work to be done, but we're in okay shape right now for a presentation of a budget
Mm-hmm.
next week with the understanding of what a budget is. So, we certainly like the pieces to be as accurate as possible, but not more accurate than that. Especially with these projections. So it may be that at some point 3% will seem quaint.
Drew,
Yeah.
I didn't go through every line of the budget, but I read the narrative and noted your high spots. And I think you've done a real good job of squaring away our possibles for the next year. And I'm going to just recommend, I don't know if we're going to take a vote, but it may be my recommendation that we move this budget forward at the general board meeting next week.
Okay, and it's my sense that I'll recommend the same. And Morris? Okay, so we have a sense. And I'll circulate any questions I have, and I'm sure everyone else will, and there'll be enough time to resolve them. And basically, they're matters of clarity versus matters of substantive change.
Watch the hype, Howard. Howard, I've made vast sums of money writing annual reports, and you have to be real careful. You have to be real careful about not hyping things too much. You've got to be absolutely bedrock solid in every statement you make. Stay away from glamour. This is a government thing.
Okay.
That's professional advice.
Okay,
If you guys are
good.
General Motors, I'd charge you up the ass for it.
Well, any further questions about the budget at this time? Okay. Anything else for committee business at this time?
No, I have no other business.
Does the public have any questions? Okay. Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
40 minutes? 40 minutes? You want to
Sorry.
adjourn? That's a record.
Well, do you want to keep going for a while?
Well done.
We can
Well,
Take
certainly
well
the
done.
we
win.
can look at page 8, I think.
Yeah, well
Page
done,
8 is
Drew.
interesting.
Well done, Drew. And I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so we're adjourned. And this has been a meeting of the Roosevelt Islands Operating Corporation Audit Committee, and the time is 4:42, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.